Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. It started as a simple favor. I was drowning in boxes, files, personal things, a lifetime of memories packed away in cardboard containers that weighed more than I cared to admit. The office was relocating, and the pressure was mounting. My boss Tom was out of town, and his son, Ethan, had just moved back to the city after finishing college. He showed up one afternoon, sleeves rolled up and a casual smile, offering to help me move some of the heavier boxes. At first, it felt strange. Ethan and I had crossed paths occasionally at work events, but we were never more than polite acquaintances. He was young, maybe 24, with that easy confidence you only find in people who have never had to prove themselves. Tall, athletic, with a messy mop of dark hair and eyes that seemed to catch light even when the sun wasn't shining. I was tired, exhausted. Really, life had been a balancing act for years now, between my job, my marriage, and the relentless demands of every day. Life. My husband, Mark, was great on paper. Reliable, successful, kind in a distant way. But lately, the spark between us had dimmed to almost nothing. We were more roommates than lovers. The passion, the late-night talks, the laughter they felt. Like relics from another life, Ethan and I moved box after box, shifting them into the moving truck parked outside. We laughed about small things, college stories, shared music tastes, the absurdity of office politics. For a moment, I forgot about the tension that had been gnawing at me for months. As the afternoon waned into evening, Ethan suggested we take a break. He grabbed 2 sodas from the fridge and sat down beside me on the steps. That's when the conversation shifted. He asked me about Mark, about my life outside of work, and I answered cautiously at first. But something about Ethan's genuine curiosity, his warm attention, made me open up more than I planned. I told him about the loneliness, the feeling of invisibility in my own marriage, the silence that had grown between Mark and me. I admitted in a whisper how I missed being seen, not just noticed, but truly seen by someone who wanted to know me again. Ethan didn't say much. He just listened, eyes steady on mine, and in that silence, I felt a strange kind of comfort. It was as if he was telling me without words, I get it. You're not alone. Before I knew it, he reached out, his hand brushing mine. The touch was electric, a jolt through my tired body that woke something I'd buried deep inside. I pulled back, panic flaring for a moment, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he whispered, "You deserve to be happy." And then it happened. Kiss, tentative at first, but quickly deepening into something desperate and urgent. The world narrowed until there was just him and me, and the raw ache of wanting to be wanted. It was wrong. I knew that instantly. But it felt so painfully right. We pulled apart, breathless and shaking. I told him I was married. Ethan nodded, his face unreadable for a moment, then simply said, "I'm not trying to break you. Just don't forget. You deserve more." He helped me finish loading the truck that evening, but nothing was the same after that. For days, I was haunted not just by guilt, but by the realization of how empty I'd allowed myself to become. I wanted to confess to Mark, to explain, but I was terrified of losing him, of losing us. Mark noticed something was off. He asked if I was okay. I lied. I kept my secret, but it gnawed at me, eating away the trust I had left in myself. Weeks later, Mark found a message on my phone from Ethan. Just a few words. Nothing explicit, but enough to shatter the fragile peace in our home. The confrontation was quiet but devastating. Mark didn't yell, he didn't scream. He just looked at me with eyes full of hurt and asked, why? Why had I done it? Why had I risked everything? I told him the truth, not about the kiss, but about the loneliness. The distance, the way I'd felt invisible in my own life. It didn't fix things. It didn't erase the pain. But it was a start. We went to counseling. We talked late into the night, unpacking years of neglect, resentment, and silence. It was brutal and beautiful, painful and necessary. Ethan disappeared from my life soon after. He didn't want to be the wedge between us. He understood the cost, months. Later, Mark and I found something fragile and new, a connection that felt like hope. I'll never forget the day Ethan helped me move those boxes. It wasn't just about lifting heavy things. It was about carrying the weight of a truth I'd been too afraid to face. He didn't just change that day, he changed everything. The days after that kiss blurred into a confusing mix of guilt and longing. I kept replaying it in my mind the way Ethan's lips had felt against mine, soft and uncertain but full of something electric I hadn't felt in years. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. Every time Mark brushed past me or asked how my day was, I felt a crack opening inside me, a reminder of what I had almost given away. Work became a minefield. Seeing Ethan in the office, his easy smile, the way he'd catch my eye across the room sent my heart racing and my thoughts spiraling. I wanted to avoid him, but I also wanted to talk to him, to feel that connection again, even if it was just fleeting. One afternoon, as I was packing at my desk, Ethan stopped by. His expression was serious, different from the playful charm he usually wore. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to mess things up for you." I shook my head, tears prickling behind my eyes. "You didn't. I did this. I'm the one who let it happen." He sighed and leaned against the edge of my desk. "You looked lost. I just wanted to remind you that you're not alone." His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that maybe there was a way back to myself without losing everything. At home, things were strained. Mark was quieter than before, his disappointment settling into a cold silence that filled every corner of the house. We tried to talk, but the conversations felt like walking on eggshells, careful not to break what little trust was left between us. One night, after the kids were asleep, Mark sat across from me at the kitchen table. The light was low, casting long shadows on the walls. "I don't know how to fix this," he admitted, voice raw. "But I want to try." I reached out, my hand trembling as it touched his. "Me too." That moment was a fragile beginning, a crack in the wall that separated us. Counseling wasn't easy. We unearthed old wounds, insecurities, and unmet needs that had festered in silence. Sometimes it felt like we were unraveling rather than healing. But slowly, with each session, each honest conversation, the distance began to shrink. Mark started showing up in small ways, making coffee on weekends, asking about my dreams, remembering the little things I loved. I started painting again, something I'd abandoned long ago, and Mark hung my canvases around the house like trophies, and yet the memory of Ethan lingered. I never saw him the same way again, not just as my boss's son or a fleeting temptation, but as a mirror reflecting the parts of me I neglected. One afternoon, months later, Ethan approached me again, this time with a quiet respect. "I'm moving out of the city," he said. "I want you to know I'm sorry for everything, and I hope you find what you're looking for." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. "Thank you, Ethan. I hope you do too." The day Ethan left, Mark held me close in a way that said, without words, we're still here. We're still fighting. I realized then that love isn't just about perfect moments. It's about the messy, painful, beautiful work of coming back to each other, again and again. And though that one afternoon started as just a favor helping me move boxes, it became the catalyst for everything I needed to face about myself, my marriage, and the kind of life I wanted to build. Because sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest, most unexpected gestures. Weeks turned into months, and the house felt like a different place, one filled with silence, but also with unspoken questions and fragile hopes. Mark and I tiptoed around each other, both scared to say the wrong thing, afraid to break what little thread of connection remained. One evening, after the kids had gone to bed, I found Mark sitting on the couch with a photo album in his hands. The soft glow of the lamp cast a warm halo around him, making him look almost tender, like the man I had fallen in love with years ago. He looked up when I entered the room, his eyes searching mine. "Do you remember this?" he asked, flipping the page to show a picture of us on our wedding day, smiling, carefree, full of dreams. I smiled, but it was bittersweet. I do. I miss that version of us. He closed the album gently. Me too. But maybe we can find her again. Not by pretending the past didn't happen, but by building something new. I nodded, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. I want that too. That night, for the first time in a long time, we talked not about the mistakes or the hurt, but about the future. We shared hopes, fears, and quiet promises. Meanwhile, at work, Ethan's presence grew harder to ignore, though he kept his distance. After his apology, there was an unspoken tension every time our paths crossed. I felt the pull of what could have been a dangerous, seductive pull, and I had to remind myself who I was and what I stood to lose. One afternoon, Ethan called me unexpectedly. "Can we talk?" "One last time," he said. My heart pounded. I wanted to say no, to shut the door on that chapter for good. But curiosity and something unresolved made me agree. We met at a quiet cafe, the kind with soft lighting and thick curtains that made the outside world disappear. Ethan looked different, more serious, more reflective. "I needed to tell you something," he said, his voice low. "That day, helping you move those boxes, it wasn't just about being helpful. I was drawn to you because I saw how lonely you were, and I thought maybe I could be something different. For you." I swallowed hard. "I was lonely, but I'm trying to fix that." He nodded. "I know, and I'm sorry for complicating things. You deserve to be happy, truly happy." We sat in silence, the weight of unspoken feelings filling the space between us. "I hope you and Mark find your way back to each other," Ethan finally said, standing to leave. I watched him go, feeling a mix of relief and sadness. That night, I told Mark about the conversation. He listened quietly, then pulled me close. "We're not perfect," he said, "but maybe we're perfect for each other because we're willing to fight." And fight we did. The road to healing was jagged and slow. We stumbled through doubts and setbacks, but every time we felt ourselves drifting, we found a way back through honest conversations, shared laughter, and sometimes just holding hands. In the dark, I learned to ask for what I needed, and Mark learned to listen, not just with his ears, but with his heart. Our marriage didn't erase the past, but it grew stronger because of it. Years later, as I sit in our living room surrounded by the chaos of daily life laughter, homework, the hum of a life rebuilt, I look at Mark and know that the love that survived isn't perfect. It's real. It's messy, and it's ours. The following months. We're a mosaic of small moments, some beautiful, some painful, that slowly began to piece us back together. We learned that healing isn't a straight path, but a winding road filled with detours and unexpected stops. One Saturday morning, Mark surprised me by making breakfast. Not just a casual meal, but pancakes the way I used to make for him during our early days when everything felt effortless and full of possibility. I sat at the kitchen table, watching him flip the pancakes with a slight grin. "You remembered I like blueberries on mine?" I said, my voice catching with gratitude. He shrugged, sitting down across from me. "I'm trying." The simple gesture felt like a bridge connecting the woman who'd felt invisible and the man who'd felt distant, but the past still cast long shadows. One evening, Mark came home earlier than usual. I was sitting on the couch, a book half forgotten in my hands. When he reached out and took my hand, "We need to talk," he said softly. My stomach tightened, fearing what was coming. "I've been offered a promotion," he continued, "and it would mean more travel, more time away." I blinked, the old ache stirring. "Travel? Like before?" He nodded. "Yes, but I don't want to lose this again." "I want us to make this work, even if it's harder." I squeezed his hand. "Then let's make a plan, together." That night, we drafted a calendar time carved out just for us, regular. Check-ins, date nights marked in ink. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. At work, things shifted too. Ethan had moved on, or so I hoped. I focused on my projects, on building a life that didn't hinge on old wounds or tempting what-ifs. One afternoon, Mark surprised me with tickets to a concert our favorite band from years ago. We laughed as we sang along, the music weaving. New memories over old scars. Afterwards, walking hand in hand under the city lights, Mark stopped and looked at me with a tenderness I hadn't seen in a long time. "I'm proud of us," he said, "for staying, for fighting, for forgiving." Tears filled my eyes. Me too. And in that moment, I knew that what we had was fragile but fierce, a love tested by fire and stronger for it. Years later, as we sit on the porch of the home we rebuilt together, watching the sunset bleed into the horizon, I whisper to Mark, "We made it." He smiles, pulling me close. "Yes, we did."